you're reading the thing out loud, after I've already edited it multiple times, you still find words that don't flow right. And so I am, editing the book in real time as I'm reading it, to make these little changes so that the sentences flow a little better. It was cool. It was really, really cool.
You're listening to Ice Cream with Investors, a podcast that is dedicated to teaching you how to better invest your money so that you can live a more intentional life. I'm your host, Matt Four, and it is my goal to teach and empower you to remove the roadblocks to your financial success.
All right, JP, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Really good. I really can't complain. I tell people often when I get asked those questions, like, in the grand scheme of things, I don't have a lot to complain about, right? I woke up, legs work, family's healthy, wife still loves me. It's all gravy.
Amen. Amen. Well, we like to start with the difficult questions here. What's your favorite ice cream?
So favorite implies I have to pick one, right, Matt?
You can pick multiple. It's like your kids. You can have multiple favorites.
Yes, of course. I'm going to say the good old classic Rocky Road. I used to go to Baskin Robbins a billion years ago before when I was a kid, obviously, and then you get older and you realize, that's not good. Anyway, Rocky Road. Yeah, it's good stuff. And I've even tried to kind of recreate it a little bit. It's not the same, but yeah, Rocky Road, man.
It's funny you say that about Baskin Robbins, because I do remember it being like awesome when you were a kid. And now as an adult, you're like, it's okay. It's good, like store ice cream.
Yes, and I think it's gotten worse as companies look to increase profitability and they use crappier ingredients. But there was a golden time where things weren't so toxic. Yep.
Now you're joining us from outside Atlanta. If we're in Atlanta, do you have a favorite ice cream shop or any place you like to go?
Yeah, we found my wife grew up like a dessert, not junkie, but like her dessert was a big part of her family. And so that's been a cool thing to make it a tradition for our family, because that wasn't really a big thing for us. So we've recently, we've kind of fallen in love with Jenny's ice cream. It's like a local thing, but it's a big chain. And there's some Texas sheet cake, I think is one of my favorites that they have right now.
Yeah, no toppings at Jennings, just straight ice cream.
Straight up ice cream. Yep. In a cone.
Yeah.
That's it.
You mentioned dessert rituals, like habits or whatever. Do you have any traditions around that? I'm interested to hear about that.
There's one. It's not really a dessert thing. I guess it is a dessert thing. So my birthday's in July, end of July. So I'm a summer kid, right? My earliest memories of birthdays were like having ice cream cake from Carvel. And so every year my family would get an ice cream cake. And if you don't know what Carvel ice cream cake is or was, whatever, it's layers of like chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream. In between, they would put these like almost Oreo crumbles with like a chocolate fudge in between. And then there would be like, blue icing on there for like your name, whatever else. But my wife has been able to recreate that using you can buy these crunchies online, you crumble them up, and then using chocolate and vanilla coconut ice cream. And she makes like a layered cake of it. And it's 95% of the way there with Carvel ice cream cake. And so
I love it.
I can't eat the whole thing for my birthday, but I freeze it. And then, over the next 2 weeks or so, I'm reliving my birthday experience.
I love it. Well, next time I'm in Atlanta, I'll swing by to get some homemade ice cream cake.
Yeah, dude.
Well, tell our listeners, what's the scoop? What do you do today?
Oh man. I wear many hats. So, I'm currently still employed as a W-2 tech sales account executive. Been doing that for about 14 years. Found a lot of success in doing that. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, depending on when the listener listens to this, I kind of got bored in that. I got bored in doing the hustle and grind of sales. Like sales, as you probably are aware, it's like, it can be a lot, it is a lot. And I was also frustrated with the amount of taxes I was paying. Great problem to have when you start making new levels of income. You're faced with new challenges. And so, after years and years and years of seeing like more and more and more of my income going out the window, like immediately before I can spend it, I'm like, I got to do something about this. And so I went down this path, this journey of trying to figure out, how do I pay less in taxes, and really like, how do I create optionality in my life? Because I felt like I was tied to this hamster wheel of like selling and making money, which was great, but then also supporting my lifestyle with that. And then realizing, crap, I can't start over somewhere else because I want to support and maintain this lifestyle. I've got these golden handcuffs and I got to keep working. And then you're getting burned out with the sales thing. And it's just like this interesting, intricate loop of stuff. So anyway, I discovered what I really wanted was I wanted to like divorce myself from having to keep selling hard drives to maintain my lifestyle. And I like, you know what I want? I want passive income. And I went through this path, and I realized that investing in real estate just made a lot of sense, specifically apartment real estate. And I built a private equity firm with my partner Matt. I call him my business wife lovingly. And we've acquired 700 apartment units, built a vertically integrated company, means we have our own property management company. And so today, what we do is we work with other tech sellers through our Tech Sales Investor Club, and we find and raise capital for other best-in-class operators to help our tech sellers put their money to work and not repeat the same mistakes I did along the way. So still working in tech sales, but also built out this real estate business, which I love doing. It's been great helping all the tech sellers. So this is my long answer to your very simple question.
Yeah, I think our listeners will know that we share a very, very similar background, almost down to the time spent as well as the in both real estate and in tech sales. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested in digging in further around that. But before we get there, I've got to ask, like, anytime I meet somebody in sales, I'm always curious, like, did you know you were going to go into sales when you were a kid? Is it something that you just kind of stumbled into? How did you even enter this world of technology sales?
Yeah, these are good questions. And I think it's so interesting in sales. There's always something, because I think there's generally some stigma around sales, and most people, my experience, love to hear is yours, is they don't intuitively think I want a career in sales. They're sort of forced or thrust upon it for whatever reason. And then it, not more often than not, but I feel like more often than not, it works out really well in ways they never imagined. So I was an engineer by trade. I was always into computers. I was a tech guy. I did help desk early on. I was a sysadmin for a number of years. And it's funny. I remember having early memories working at a reseller in California. What was I doing? Post-sale installation. So I was deploying a lot of NetApp systems and VMware and stuff. And it was great, like working 70 hours a week, a lot of burnout, learning a lot though. And I remember this sales guy saying, like, you ever think about getting into sales? I'm like, oh God, no. Right. I'm like, why? And he's like, well, you're very passionate when you talk to clients about things. So like, client would ask me a question, I would kind of go into a whole thing. Right. And it didn't really occur to me. So fast forward a few bits later, I got recruited to work at an Israeli technology startup company in Southern California. And I was doing post-sale install and support. Never did any pre-sale stuff, started doing that. And then one day, my boss couldn't make a client meeting. So my manager, Lior, awesome dude, he's like, JP, with an Israeli accent. He's like, look, I need you to be a pre-sales engineer. And he's like, all you need to do is just shut up and like, just listen, let them talk. All right. That did that. Anyway, company went out of business. And one of the only resellers that we worked with, they ended up hiring me as a solutions architect. And I covered a rep. I almost know my story here. I covered a rep, and we were doing really well. I was doing my engineering stuff, and he was doing his sales thing. Never thought about getting into sales. And eventually, he resigned. He went somewhere else. And my company was like, "Hey, JP, look, we don't have anybody to cover this account or these accounts. Would you mind covering it until we find someone?" I'm like, "Ah, sure." And what I found was there really wasn't that much of a difference from the day-to-day activities I was doing in managing these accounts. And actually, it was kind of easy from a sales standpoint when I was having a technical conversation with a client. Like clients say, "Hey, look, I'm doing X, Y, Z." And I'd be like, "Look, I can help, but I need to get a sense of how much you're looking to spend here, because I'm either going to get you like a Pinto or a Ferrari, right? So help guide me." And because I felt like there was an implicit trust as like being an engineer or knowing what you're talking about, they'd be like, "All right, well, we're looking to spend X, Y, Z. Cool, great." And magic happened. And suddenly I found myself like having success in sales, and then eventually formally becoming a sales rep, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years ago, whatever it's been. And I never looked back. There was some nervousness early on, like, oh my God, I'm carrying a bag. I got a quota. How am I going to make sure that people are buying things? And this amazing thing in the universe happens. Like stuff happens. Like you get emails from clients. "Hey, JP, we want to talk about a SAN expansion." All right, cool.
So
yeah, it's definitely not something I planned out. It's really, really interesting how it unfolded.
Well, I've got a tangent I want to go on, but I'll stop myself from there and just say, like, what was the transition from engineer to sales rep like? Like, if you could think back to those days, was there one thing that stood out that you wish you would have known before going into sales? And then how would
Yep.
you advise somebody that's looking to go into sales, like to think about the role and how it's a little bit different than maybe an engineering role, pre-sales, post-sales, whatever that looks like?
Yeah, I would, man, that's a lot I can unpack there. So if you are technical, going into sales can be uncomfortable because you're not used to being in that role formally. But what you don't realize is you're doing it already. You're already doing the sales
Mm-hmm.
part, right? And yeah, there's some structure and technique about sales and process, but you don't even have to get hung up on that, because what I've learned is the most successful salespeople are really the ones that are kind of this hybrid role where they understand the technology, and then you just like learn to be good with people. And be good with people just means like be interested in them and look to help
Yep.
them. That's really it. All of the stuff you see about like objection handling and whatever else is all this technical nonsense stuff. As long as you genuinely seek to serve clients, you'll do great. And the rest is sort of like just noise. And for me, it was like I was running into an income ceiling. Like as a engineer
Mm-hmm.
or a solutions architect, I couldn't make anymore. And so I'm like, this is stupid. I'm already doing the work anyway. So I guess I have to just change my title. And that changed my comp structure. And that allowed me to open up the almost unlimited income potential, which brings me to my next point about your question. Sales is a really, really unique profession where like you virtually have, depending on where you're working, of course, like an unlimited amount of income that you can make. And there's a correlation between how much input you put in to how much output you get out. There's not many other jobs where you get to do that. And if you play
Right.
your cards right and you kind of learn the techniques and you're working at the right industry in the right industries where there's lots of demand, right? And you're working with the right company that has the right comp plan, it's game changing, life changing, in ways that you can't even imagine.
Yeah, I always like to say if you're good at selling something, then you will always have a job. You just might not always have job security.
Yep.
And so there are plenty of jobs out there. And what we don't realize about sales too is that you're in sales with your partner, with your
All
kids, with your friends, everywhere. Who's going to do the dishes? Will you clean up your room today? I can't meet at this time. Can we go to a different place that's more
that is
convenient?
sales.
That's all sales, right? And so I define sales as you are looking for a problem to solve for somebody
Yep.
on your timeline. So
Yep.
you're solving problems, just you're putting it on your timeline. And if you're good at that, then to your point, it's almost unlimited how much income you can make.
Correct. It's remarkable.
So you move into this role of sales. You're making, I don't know, $10 billion a year over there because you're
Wow.
probably really good at your job. You get into this loop that we all get of one, now you're having to pay an exorbitant amount of taxes. And then two, it's almost a hamster wheel, right? Like I always
It
say
is.
that you are one bad quarter away. And I just kind of end it there because if you're at the wrong company, you're one bad quarter away from a new job because you're going to be forced out, or you're one bad quarter away from not receiving a commission check. And now you need to figure out where you're going to go get your income. So the reason why I got involved in real estate is exactly that. I was trying to figure out how do I smooth up these ups and downs. But a conception out there is this whole idea about taxes. Since you hit on that, I wonder if you can dig a little bit deeper into that. As a W-2 employee, you're seeing your tax bill go up. How did real estate kind of help you with that problem that you had?
Yeah. So it made me realize a couple of things. One, my CPA, God bless him, George, right? It's kind of clueless. And his advice to me was like to pay less in taxes was, hey man, you need more write-offs. So I'm like, all right, we're going to write off my office. We're going to write off membership dues. And great. I wrote off $700 on my 200
Right.
grand that I made that year, or whatever the hell it was. It does nothing. It becomes a point where it's not even worth the time writing this stuff down so that it can be filed as part of your taxes, right? So like that's not the needle mover. And I kind of stumbled upon the concept of realizing that the way we earn it, the way how we make money is categorized as far in the eyes of the IRS. It's marked as ordinary income, active income, your paycheck. You need to reshift how it's earned. So if you move that into capital gains. And capital gains can come in the form of passive income from stock market trading or real estate investments. And for me, the thing that made the most sense was like the stock market trading. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll start my hand at day trading. So I took a course, put some money together for trading some stocks, made some money, lost some more money, had a lot of stress, and realized this day trading sucks. Like, it is so incredibly stressful when the market, starts and you got no chance against the giant algorithm. So forget that. But it made me realize, like, okay, what I really need is something that I can put my money to work and I don't have to work for it anymore. And then I started looking into that more and realized, oh, real estate is a perfect avenue for that. The money you make from real estate can count as passive income through capital gains, and it's taxed at a max rate of 20% versus, depending on what tax bracket you are from a ordinary income standpoint, 32, 37, 30, 35% or more, plus state and local taxes. You're almost at 40, 45, half your checks, right? So that's sort of the avenue I went through, and then for me, just like reading about real estate, and there's a lot of different, as you know, there's a lot of different avenues of real estate or ways that you can do, like fix and flipping, house hacking. You could do note investing. There's a whole bunch of stuff. But for me, apartment investing, and I know for you too, apartment investing still does all the sense in the world for a variety of reasons, which we can get into if you want to. But yeah, that really scratched the itch for me.
Yeah, I also think, like, whenever we're talking about taxes, it's important to remember that the tax system is not meant to raise revenue. It's meant to incentivize private industry and private people to go do something that the government wants them to do. So I always think about in taxes, it's not how much money you make, it's how you made that money that depends your tax rate. And so this idea of like, hey, if I make investments and those investments produce income, that's going to be in a different tax bracket, sometimes 0, sometimes 20%. Then I'm effectively lowering my tax burden, even though I'm raising my revenue and my personal economy.
And I'll add this, you're 100% right. The other thing too is the government realizes that there's always a need for housing. It's a major, it's a problem. It's a big, big problem. If you have your masses out there all homeless, they're going to be pretty pissed off, right? And where are they going to come? They're going to come to tar and feather their representatives. So we need to provide housing for people. And one way to do that is incentivize the market to do that. And so you write the tax code to provide all of these benefits and incentives for people to run businesses, to build businesses, to create housing and can do that whole industry. That's why we have these FHA loans. We have Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all these different programs to help prop up the housing market because it's such an important part of the economy and just job security for those that are elected.
That's right. And I look across the world. Usually there are tax breaks in every economy for if you feed the population, if you house the population, or if you make energy so abundant that goods and services can move freely throughout the country, you're going to get some sort of tax break.
Yeah. I mean, it's not when you look at it from that level, that lens, what people do. And I think I'm bringing this up because I know that there are people that are new to the world of real estate investing, or they only know it from one layer, which they see on HGTV, which is nothing wrong with that. It's a great gateway into it, opens your mind. But it's funny having conversation with people that, they might be like 40, 50 years old and getting exposure to investing through private equity into large apartment complexes is like, wait, where has this been all of my life? And it's like a whole new world that they've never been introduced to or exposed to. And it's not like this new thing that you and I just created. Like, this has been going on for a long time. And the ultra wealthy and the mega rich do this stuff day in, day out with their eyes closed.
So 8 years ago, you got involved in real estate. Where was your first venture into real estate? Was it the HGTV fix and flip? Was it the house around the corner, or did you jump straight into multifamily?
I intended to jump straight into multifamily, and I let my distraction and my impatience get the best of me. And my partner at the time, still a good friend of mine, Tyson, love you, brother. We came upon an opportunity to buy. Each of us, there was 3 of us, to buy a single family rental in Midland, Texas. I was living in New Jersey. He was in California. He's got a friend that lives in Texas, and we all invested money. We basically each bought a house. I inherited a renter, and it was a wonderful learning opportunity. We lost a bunch of money, but learned a lot of really valuable nuggets on like how and why. For me, your mileage may vary. SFR, single family rentals, frankly, suck. So yeah, it was a single family rental was my first parlay into it, despite the fact that I had been training and learning and learning all the aspects of multifamily. It's hard to get started in frankly, like there's a lot to learn. At least for me, there was a lot of like mental not gymnastics. It was mental
hurdles,
limiting beliefs to get into, going from, one industry that I've kind of built my career up, tech and sales, and into something else, real estate. Right. And I made it more complicated than what it needed to be. So
usually the renters I've inherited in my single family portfolio are the worst renters I've ever had. It sounds like you had a story there. Do you care to
stories? It was
do you
one
care to
after
share
the
some of
other
those
one,
learnings?
man. Yeah, I had one guy. I didn't know to put the water bill in my name, so he was basically getting free water, and then I got hit with a $1,800 water bill after he moved out. And then the next people that moved in, like the day after they moved in, they decided to split up, husband and wife. They're like, so he's like, here's my rent. Where's her rent? Well, she's got to come up with it. Thank you.
Were you managing the property yourself?
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Well,
Now, do you still own that property?
No, I sold it at the best time. And by best time, I mean the worst time. It was about 3 or 4 months before the market finally picked up in Midland, Texas.
Yeah. I was going to say Midland's exploded.
Yeah. It explodes. It crashes, explodes. It crashes. For those of you that don't know Midland is this amazing boom bust city. When oil is expensive or high, whatever, like it is the buzz in Midland is incredible. It's just like cool to be there because there's so many jobs. Hotel rooms are like $800 a night because you have people that need to go work on the rigs, right? Then when oil becomes cheap, like nothing's happening. And so it's like tumbleweeds and cobwebs, and it seemingly happens like this. So when times are good, it's great. When times aren't so good, it's awful.
Yeah. So you had that experience. You decided, hey, maybe single family is not the right path for you. How'd you get involved in multifamily? What was your first deal there?
Well, it was like, oh, look, single family, even though I'm going down the path for multifamily, here's an interesting thing that could develop into multiple single families and it becomes multifamily at some point. Yeah. But I was still going down the path and believed in multifamily. And then having that experience, the negative experience, was still positive for me because it helped reinforce and gave me some really good perspective on why I love multifamily fundamentally, right? So the next project was being a partner in a 42 unit apartment complex in Houston, Texas. And then our first real deal as an operator was, what did we do? That was a 28 unit in Houston, Texas as well. That was where I was a GP and raised, I don't know, $2 million or so from LPs. I don't recommend that as your first real deal, like syndicating it, raising capital for it, and being a general partner for it.
What year was that?
It was 2018.
Okay. And do you still have that or did you sell it?
No, we sold it. We hit our number. We got our investors back. What did we get on that one? 3x? It was a nice return. That's a
nice little deal. Yeah. How'd you find that deal in Houston? If you were in New Jersey or were you down in Georgia?
Yeah, it was it was a really, now I've gotten more spiritual as I've gotten older. So right now I'm really big on law of attraction stuff. And it's wonderful. And I think what happened was I had put it out there that's what I was looking for. So I got involved. I got looped in somehow into some kind of like real estate event. And I got sucked into a group in a good way, right? Where there was an opportunity to become a partner, like a silent partner in one of their deals. So we did that. Then they knew like I was looking for other deals to work in, and they had an idea. They had a project where like, look, we're getting bigger. We don't really we had an opportunity to buy this 28 unit. It's good for someone. Like we'll take a small fee, but like we'll help amass a group of partners to go run the deal. Cool. So like, because I was already working with them, they grabbed 3 other dudes that are also investors with them. And we came together as strangers, and it worked out phenomenally. Like I'm friends with all these guys now. It turns out, interesting story. They tried repeating that model, I think 2 or 3 other times. And for whatever reason, like the dynamic of the groups, they couldn't get them to sync up at all, and they never materialized. But ours was like the first and only one that actually worked out. And it was a really, really good experience.
Yeah. Would you do that again? Because that seems very scary, nervous for me to want to be in a multi-million-dollar venture with people I just met.
Yeah. Would I want to do that again? Knowing what I know now, probably not. But like we had a great experience, and we were all, for what it's worth, the other side of the coin or shoe here is all of us. I don't know how you qualify this or vet this early on. We were really, really inspired is not the right word. We were dedicated to making this work. All of us brought in money from our friends and families. So we all had like we really had alignment with making sure that the project was successful, because it wasn't just like random strangers' money and whatever else. Like we really needed to make this work because of our commitment and where we wanted to go with this as a career or for us, right? As investors.
Yep.
So I think if you can make those, if you can align those pieces, then it's not as risky as like, just picking random strangers, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I mean, everybody has to be in alignment with, we're going to make this work. You have to treat every dollar you raise as your own, all those sorts of things. Yes. It sounds good in theory. It sounds like pretty obvious when you say it out loud, but there's a lot of people in this industry that do not do that. And I've seen those come to fruition as well. But so you start off with a single family, you move into the 20, 40 units, it's ish area, but then you scale to 700. And I know from previous conversations, you were doing acquisitions, property management. I mean, you were doing it all. So talk about like how you were able to balance your growth, your W-2, your family. Just give us a snapshot of what that looked like in the beginning stages and how it evolved.
Hey, fellow investors, before we dive into our next segment of the show, I wanted to take a quick moment to talk to you about a fantastic opportunity for you to invest with me. As you know, here at Ice Cream with Investors, I'm passionate about real estate investing and helping you navigate the exciting world of wealth creation through real estate. And that's why, for the first time, I'm thrilled to tell you about an opportunity for you to invest alongside of me. Over the past 3 years, I've been investing in multifamily, mobile home parks, car washes. I've even become the bank and lent out money to fellow real estate investors on a short-term basis. And now you can come join me. If you would like to jump on a call and learn more about this opportunity, head to icecreamwithinvestors.com/invest and find a time for us to connect. And now back to the show.
It was very, very difficult. There was a lot of balance. Was in the beginning stages of starting my family. My wife still is very, very supportive of the growth. I think early on, her and I got on the same page by listening to a lot of podcasts about real estate. And like we listened to like Bigger Pockets podcasts, and really just kind of be on the same level of like, this makes sense. All right, JP, you go do this thing for us as a family unit. So, still growing sales while learning this whole new world of real estate, which also eventually required me to attend conferences, go to events, explore markets, like go fly to other markets to go learn them, meet brokers. It was hard. So what it meant was a lot of sacrifice, a lot of nights, weekends. I'm not gonna say holidays because I wasn't working like around Christmas sort of thing, but like it was nights and weekends. And that became a thing. So free time got used to learn and invest my energy and effort into learning this thing and getting up to speed to a point where at some point, so my original intention was to be a passive investor in these real estate deals, but I realized I liked real estate. I liked the business. I liked the people. I loved, unlike sales, there was this level of like, hey, let's work together. Let's grow our business together, right? And there's elements of that in sales, but not really, right? Especially in my role as a reseller. Like I've got two clients. I got my end user client and I got the manufacturer client, right? And I've got to serve both of them, and I'm herding cats and all this other stuff. And real estate was really refreshing. And so I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should just go learn this and eventually do this. This will be my way out of tech sales. And so, in one way it helped me was kind of bringing on an inside support person to help me offload, like, I don't say low level tasks, but things that really weren't a good use of my time.
Weren't giving you energy.
No, not at all. Like updating the CRM or scheduling meetings or, putting quotes together. Right. And then I allowed me to focus on and do things, or being pulled into projects in sales that were higher value, i.e. let's come up with a pricing strategy. Let's negotiate with the client. Let's negotiate with the vendor, whatever the thing was, right? And that just got better and better and better as I did less and less in that, and I got to spend time doing the real estate stuff. So answer the question, it was a sacrifice for many, many years. Still is to a degree, but yeah, it was the end result was really, really important for me, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get there.
What your partner, your spouse at the time, so you mentioned that you both would listen to the Bigger Pockets podcast and just kind of were on the same page. Was that always the case that you both were aligned with this vision? Did there take some convincing on one side or the other? Talk us through that.
Yeah. So my wife, Jamie, like she has always been open-minded to like new ideas and things. So that's been really, really good. I have some friends that their spouses are not like that. And I God bless them, because that just seems like a lot of work. But no, she's been really good. And we were able to have conversations about these sort of things and understand concerns on both parts and kind of come to alignment there. So yeah, it was relatively easy in the grand scheme of things, because if you think about or listen to the fundamentals of real estate and real estate investing, it makes sense, right? Like you're dealing with one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, clothing, shelter. People are always going to need a place to live. It's really important for, self-actualization.
Yeah. And I mean, to touch on that for a minute, like when I first got involved in real estate, that's exactly what I was thinking is like, it will never go to zero. I can't tell you if Google will be a company in 5 years, 20 years. It certainly looks like they're about to get broken up based off of some of the antitrust stuff going on. So what does that do to that stock? I have no idea. But I know that if this house goes unrented and people move out of Nashville for one reason or another, well, there's still copper in there. There's still nails in there. There's still wood that I could break apart and go sell. So obviously I would lose money in that situation. So I'm not saying you can't lose money. I'm saying that it will never go to zero because it solves a human need.
Yep. Agreed.
You also wrote a book, So Rich You Can't Quit. And I have been on this journey of trying to put together some thoughts and put together a book and those sorts of things. Talk us through, one, the book itself, like why did you write it? What is it? And then I would love to hear your perspective on just the journey of writing that while you're balancing all these stuff as well.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Yeah, so I'm very grateful to have become an Amazon bestseller for writing the book called So Rich You Can Quit. It started off as a interesting direction, right? I intended to create some kind of ebook resource for other tech sellers. And before I knew it, I was 16,000 words in. And I realized, for those of you that don't know, an ebook should be like 3 pages.
Yeah.
10 pages.
Yeah. 16,000 is a lot of words.
16,000 words is not, it was like 70 pages is what I got into or so. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm kind of writing a book. And it was very technical. Like it was like the ABCs of how to invest in real estate. And I took the approach of like, if I was going to show my mom or teach my mom how to buy an apartment complex and the value, like you got what the value of it, why you would do that. Here's how it works, how the business works. Here's, the elements of it. And I realized it's too much. Right. And so I thought, what's the best way to kind of convey this information in a way that someone can, appreciate it or take it in better? Technical is too much. You need a story. So it kind of morphed into a little bit of a hybrid story of like my journey from tech sales into real estate, the pains I went through that we kind of touched upon a little bit here in the interview. The pains, like my journey, what I discovered, why I like apartment real estate as an investment. And then some like elements about the business so that it conveys the kind of the same level of intrigue or interest for those that are like, what's that about? Like, why would you give a crap? Like, who cares? And then some practical things on what you can kind of do to kind of get started. Maybe you want to be an active investor or a passive investor and kind of break that through in the book there. And I actually have, I've got a cool gift for listeners. If you want to get a free copy of my book, yes, you can buy it on Amazon. That's fine too. But if you want a free copy, just pay for shipping and handling. Just go to jpalbano.com/gift and you fill out the form and send you a copy of the book. But it was a cool experience, man. It was a really cool experience.
We'll link that in the show notes, but talk to me about the process of writing a book. So from blank sheet to 16,000 words, it's tough, man, because like what you know, but you also, I think the idea of the reader in mind, you want to make sure that you're not over jargoning it, over complicating it. Like, hey, this is what you really need to know. Kudos on you for having the forethought to think about like, hey, this should probably be a story rather than cap rates and interest rates and floating rate debt and bridge loans, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So how did you do that? I mean, were you doing it every day? Did you kind of block out some weekends? What did the process look like?
Yeah. So it was, I get into these things where I get inspired to do things. And I find for me, the early morning, right after you get up, is the best time to get your most focused work done. And I've also incorporated, after writing the book, I also incorporate that to my other aspects of my business. But like, wake up, go to the bathroom, hydrate, and then I would open up the computer and just start. And I started off with just listing out the chapters. Like, how would I break this down in a way that wasn't overwhelming and it builds on each other. And then you just start, or then what are the sections about it, right? What is how apartment investing works? What is multifamily, right? Just breaking down. And then once I had that outline, then it was a matter of just like filling in the details, trying to use story when appropriate, right? Because you just don't want it to be like fact. And then once you've kind of got a whole, we'll call it a version 1 down, then it was a matter of like, I need to find someone to help me put this together because I was overwhelmed with the idea of having to like reread this, edit it, make it make sense because you're so close to it. It is hard to self-edit. So I reached out, I found someone to help me edit the book and we kind of collaborated each chapter at a time. We retooled some stuff. It took, I don't know, about 6 to 8 months or so to do it. But in the beginning, when you're in that flow state and you're just writing things, that part wasn't bad. It wasn't hard because you're flowing, right? You know what you know and whatever else. But the part that was really challenging was the editing part and trying to like remove yourself far enough where you can try to like, is this making sense? And then if I can, Matt, like recording the audible version of it was an interesting experience. I wanted to be the guy that you hear in your head, just like you're hearing me now. Hi, when you're listening to the book. And so I recorded that with the help of an audio engineer and going through that process, I think made the book better because, I'm obviously reading it in real time as I'm recording each chapter. And it's funny when you're reading the thing out loud, after I've already edited it multiple times, you still find words that don't flow right. And so I am, editing the book in real time as I'm reading it to make these little changes so that the sentences flow a little better. It was cool. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I think that last bit was for me a little bit more than me than our listeners, but it's such a big, daunting process, and for you to say you did it in 6 to 8 months, I mean, kudos to you because that has not been my experience. Because I think you've got all this knowledge, you put it down, and then you go back and reread it, and you're like, I don't like this. I should reschedule it and do all these sorts of changes. But good is better, done is better than perfect. So.
That's something that I have been struggling with for a long time. It's this idea of perfection, and you're 100% right. Keeping that in mind, like reminding yourself, like just get it going. Version 1's okay. There'll be version 2 later on, right? It's all good. And that will prevent you from making progress. I will share, there was a book that I found when I was halfway through the process. I wish I learned about it earlier. It's called Published. It's by Chandler Bolt. I found that book to be super helpful. And if I had to do it over again, right, or start from scratch, I would pick up that book and use that as my guide.
Yep. Awesome. Well, JP, I know you got a busy schedule, so I'll get us now to our last round. We're calling this the 4 toppings. Our first one is, what is your favorite book that's not your own, or a book that you've read recently that's given you a paradigm shift?
If I can give you 2 books because they play into each other. Am I allowed to do that?
You got it,
Matt?
Yeah.
Okay. You're so graceful. Multiple ice cream flavors. Look at you. Jeez. You're a man of abundance. So this is on the spiritual side. So I got introduced or turned on to a book called A Course in Miracles. It's, if you don't know it, many people don't know it really. It's basically like, it looks like the Bible. It's this really, really thick 1,000-page book text. And when you read it, it's written like it was if it's the Bible. The story of the book was like the woman that wrote it was a psychologist in New York, Helen Schunkman. She was like channeled. She heard a voice. And it's basically like, this is A Course in Miracles, take note. She just started like writing stuff and they assembled it together. And it's basically like the channeling of Jesus's, not instructions, but like wisdom about how to live life, which is basically comes down to don't judge everything. All there is love and the importance of forgiveness. That's kind of really it. But when you read the book, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like written in this weird, like archaic, whatever. So I started reading the book. I got, 30 pages into it. I gave it up because it was just too much. Many months later, years later, a friend of mine turned me on to a book called The Disappearance of the Universe. And it's basically a conversation between a man and these ascended masters that show up in his living room. And it's a story that kind of like gives you the backstory about ACIM, A Course in Miracles. And going through that was super eye-opening for me and connected a lot of dots. And it made me really excited about digging into ACIM. So once I finished that, got into ACIM, and I've been practicing that. And that has really, really, really created a lot of peace in my life when you learn how to apply forgiveness to everything and everyone. Anything that irritates you is an opportunity for forgiveness for the irritator and the irritatee. And the more you get good at doing that, like shit doesn't bother you anymore. It's fantastic. Now, don't get me wrong. Like things can pop up, but I've gotten better and better and better at being able to control my emotions. And that has been the gift that keeps on giving. So those are my recommendations for my one book. You kind of got to get two at least, because one gives you so much more context than just reading the book by itself.
Man, you are hitting me with the right time around just offering forgiveness to every little thing that bothers you at the moment. I don't know why. It just seems like everything's coming at me and swinging hooks everywhere. So I might need a little bit of that advice right now. Our second one is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
My former employer, my former boss, Lior, he gave me a massive pay raise from one job to the next one. And that helped me in so many different ways because it gave me confidence that someone believed in me, and it made me want to earn, right, that income, and do a really, really good job to be deserving of that. And so as a team member, as an employee, as whatever, like it really motivated me to go above and beyond for him. And that was not necessarily like advice, spoken advice. It was more of like a gesture / thing that happened to me that made me realize the power of believing in someone on your team like that. And so that was really powerful for me at the time, and helped set me up for many years.
I'm a big Ted Lasso fan, and that's one of the two things I would take away from that show is one, be optimistic, but two, having a belief in somebody and a greater mission is probably going to pull the best out of them. Yep. Rather than carrot and stick and all those sorts of analogies you typically hear.
Yep, exactly.
Our third one is, what are you most proud of in your life?
My children. Man, you want to talk about forgiveness lessons? Like my wife and I are realizing more recently that it's like a combination of things that are starting to like make more sense. As a parent, I got 3 kids. I got a 3-year-old, what do I have? 8-year-old and 11-year-old. Like, all right, my job as a parent is to teach them. And what's becoming more and more clear to me, especially after doing a couple of plant medicine experiences, is like, no, it's not that way. It's the opposite. They're here to teach me. And when I keep that in mind, it makes the challenges or apparent difficulties I might be experiencing make more sense and land softer, more softly, whatever.
Yeah. We'll have to nerd out after the show on that, because I've got a lot of thoughts on that. Kids in the role they play as you mature into an adult, and I think we can both agree they just help you see the world so much different. It's so much different.
Yep. I almost feel bad for my friends that don't have kids. I'm like, oh man, you're missing out so many lessons.
Right. Our fourth and final one is, if you could sit down and eat a bowl of ice cream with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
That's easy. That would be Arnold Schwarzenegger. I had an opportunity to meet him years ago. This is like 2007 or so. I have a picture with him. It was like a cool experience, but I never got to, other than like shaking his hand and saying, oh my God, I'm a big fan sort of thing. Like I never got to sit with him and have ice cream and ask him. Like I didn't learn until recently after reading his book, Total Recall. Awesome book, by the way. Yeah, like on Audible, that is a phenomenal experience. Like listening in about his tank driving experience. But like, I didn't realize how much of an investor he was. Like, that's how he made his money, through freaking real estate, not movies. It was real estate, right time, right place, right market. But yeah, I mean, there's so much that you can learn from Arnold. Even listening to his latest book, Be Useful. Just like so many things that guy has gone through. Great work ethic. And he's someone that I'd love to exchange electrons with again while we eat ice cream.
Two things on that. One, yeah, you're absolutely right. I remember hearing that he did real estate to make sure that he had the income to go after his vision of trying to be an actor.
Yeah.
So this whole idea of like, hey, if you can satisfy your human need of needing income and money in this world, then it's going to free you up to be somebody that you were meant to be in this world, is something that I truly believe. And he's a perfect example of that. Two, have you ever seen the picture? So he and his wife obviously split. One went with his wife to live full-time, ex-wife full-time, and one lived with Arnold full-time. And then they have the pictures of the two next to each other. Have you ever seen that picture?
No, I'm curious about what this looks like.
Basically, Arnold's son is very much in shape, and the other one is very much not. And it talks about like the influence that you have as a parent in the area that you.
Basically Maria's kid looks like Maria, skinny,
right?
And Arnold's kid looks like freaking Arnold.
Maria's kid is not skinny. I will say that.
I see, not in shape. All right, I get it.
But it's just this idea. So, right. So we were talking about this idea of like kids, and they're teaching you. And you said, I thought my idea was to be a teacher for them. Like I view my role for them as a role model. My job is to teach our son how to be a man in this world, and that means doting on our daughter, doting on my partner. It means taking the higher road. It means fighting for what you believe. It means a lot of different things, but they're never going to hear you say something and it click. You have to do that. You have to be that. So yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a good way to slide in that little antidote there.
Agreed, dude.
JP, fantastic conversation. If our listeners wanted to reach out to you, learn more about you, or just get connected, where is the best place we could point them?
JPAlbano.com. That's JPAlbano.com. For those of you that are old enough to remember Worldwide Wrestling Federation, WWF, there is no relation to Captain Lou Albano, of course, unless you are a fan of Captain Lou. In that case, he was my dad, right? So there's that.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, we will link all those in the show notes. And then JP, thanks for coming on the show.
You got it, man. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you for listening to Ice Cream with Investors. If you like what we serve you here, it would mean the world to me if you would like, subscribe, and leave a review on your favorite podcast app.